Hello guys, I hope you enjoyed your weekend. We will start this lecture by talking about how you can organize and get reports from your data with the use of different sorting and filtering features. You will also learn creating tables, which is another approach for organizing your data. Then we will talk about how to remove duplicate data in a table or a worksheet, how to create data validation, and how to consolidate data from multiple worksheets. Afterwards, different ways of creating hyperlinks to a document or a worksheet will be discussed. And finally, you will learn how to print your worksheet and apply the necessary settings. Let's start by talking about how to sort your data. There are four ways for sorting your data. The easiest way is right-clicking the field that you want to sort it, point to sort on the shortcut menu, and then select the sort type that you want. The second method is clicking Sort and Filter in the Editing group on the Home tab and select a desired sort option. The third method is clicking Sort A to Z, Sort Z to A, or use Custom Sort in the Sort and Filter group on the Data tab. And the last method is clicking the Filter arrow in the Home tab to add the filter arrows for the columns. Then use the filter arrow of the desired column to sort its data. Regardless of which method you use, there are several sorting options that depend on the type of data being sorted. As I said, in addition to sorting your values, you can sort the columns using the background color of the cells. To do this, like the previous slide, simply click the filter arrow and go to sort by color and click the color of the cells that you want to be on top or at the bottom of the other rows. Sometimes you may find that the default sorting options can't sort data in the order you need. Excel allows you to create a custom list to define your own sorting order. In this example, we want to sort the worksheet by t-shirt sizes that are in column D. A regular sort would organize the size alphabetically. That would be incorrect. Instead, we want to create a custom list to sort them from smallest to largest. To do this, as the first step, select a cell in the column you want to sort by. Then select the Data tab and click the Sort command. The Sort dialog box will appear. Select the column you want to sort by, then choose Custom List from the Order field. The Custom List dialog box will appear. Select New List from the Custom List box and type the items in the desired custom order in the list box. In our example, we want to sort our data by t-shirt size from smallest to largest. So we will type small, medium, large, and X large. Finally, click Add to save the new sort order. The new list will be added to the custom list box. Make sure the list that you created is selected, then click OK. As it can be seen here, the worksheet is now organized by t-shirt size from smallest to largest. When you need more control over how your data is sorted, you can add multiple levels to any sort. This allows you to sort your data by more than one column. For this purpose, select a cell in the column you want to sort by and select the Sort command from the Data tab. After clicking the Sort button, the Sort dialog box will appear. In the dialog box, select the first column you want to sort by. In this example, we will sort by t-shirt size with a custom list we previously created for the order field. In order to add another column to sort by, click Add Label and select the next column, then click OK. In our example, we will sort by homeroom from smallest to largest. As you can see here, the rows are sorted by t-shirt size, and within each group of t-shirt sizes, rows are sorted by homeroom number. When you sort your data using more than one column, the column that is selected first has priority to the second column. For example, here your data will be sorted based on the homeroom first, then based on t-shirt size. If you need to change the order of a multiple level sort to control which column is sorted first, simply select the desired column, then click the move up or move down arrow to adjust its priority. You can sort your data based on different factors. For example, as it could be seen in this slide, our data is sorted by 5 levels, including the values of 4 columns and font color of the 5th column. The demo in the next slide shows you a summary of how you can sort your data.
Depending on your preference, you can either sort from the Home tab using the Sort and Filter drop-down menu, or you can use the commands in the Data tab. In this example, I have a worksheet with a list of t-shirt orders, and I'd like to sort it alphabetically by last name. Just click any cell in the column you want to sort, and then click the Ascending command. That's the one that says A to Z. You'll notice that when we sort one column, Excel also reorders the other columns so that each row still has the correct information. If we wanted these in reverse order, we could click the Descending command. That's the one that says Z to A. Now, this method doesn't always work if your spreadsheet has an unusual layout. Watch what happens when I try to sort the data here on the right. See how the header row is included in the sort by mistake? In a situation like this, you might need to manually select the cells you want, instead of relying on Excel to do it for you. This is called sorting a cell range. Select the cell range you want to sort, including the header row if you have one. Then, click the Sort command, and a dialog box will appear. And first you'll want to check the box that says My Data Has Headers. Then use the drop-down menu on the left to choose the column you want to sort by, then select a sorting order. In this example, we'll choose largest to smallest. When you're done, click OK, and the range will be sorted by the selected column. Notice that the rest of the worksheet wasn't affected by our sort. Now, sometimes the default sorting options won't work for what you have in mind. For example, if we sort the columns that contain the t-shirt sizes in ascending order, the order will be large, medium, small, then extra large, because the column is being sorted alphabetically. You know, it would be better if the sizes were listed in a more logical order. In other words, small, medium, large, then extra large. For this, we'll need to create a custom sort. To begin, click the Sort command, and on the right, you can see that it's ordering the column from A to Z. If we click this drop-down menu and select Custom List, we can enter the t-shirt sizes in the order we want. So I'll click in the box and start typing. Small, medium, large, and extra large. And I'm pressing enter after each one. When you're done with your list, click the Add button. And make sure that your list is selected over here on the left. Then click OK to confirm, and OK again. And now the worksheet is sorted the way we want. The only problem with this is that every other column is completely out of order. What I would really like is if the homeroom numbers were organized within each t-shirt size. I can do this by sorting by multiple levels. This will let us sort first by t-shirt size and then by homeroom. Click the Sort command and you'll notice the different options at the top of the dialog box. You can add a level to the sort, delete a level, or even use the arrows to change the level order. In this example, we want to add a level. Now we just have to select the homeroom column, and we'll leave the other two fields the way they are, sorting the values from smallest to largest. And when you click OK, you'll see that within each t-shirt size, the homeroom numbers are listed in numerical order. As you can see, there are a lot of different ways of sorting your data, depending on how you want to organize it. So take some time to experiment with the different options and find the ones that best suit your needs.
In addition to sorting, adding a filter can allow you to better analyze your data. When data is filtered, only rows that meet the filter criteria will be displayed and other rows will be hidden. There are 4 types of filters, including text, number, date, and advanced filter. There are three ways to add filter in Excel. The first way is going to the Data tab and clicking the Filter button. And the second way is going to the Home tab and clicking the Filter button. After adding filter with the use of one of the explained methods, you should click Filter arrow and filter your data with the use of different options. One more way to filter data is to create a filter with a criteria equal to the content of the selected cell. To do this, right-click a cell containing the value, color, or icon you want to filter your data by, and in the context menu, point to filter and select the desired option. As I said, there are four types of filters. The first one is filter by text. When you want to filter a text column, you can leverage a number of advanced options provided by text filters. For example, you can filter out cells that begin or end with a specific character. You can filter out cells that contain or don't contain a given character, and filter out cells that are exactly equal or not equal to a specific character. For instance, to filter out rows containing banana, click the drop-down arrow in the column heading, point to Text Filters, and in the drop-down menu, click Contain. After selecting the desired filter option, Custom Autofilter dialog box will show up. In the box to the right of the filter, type the text or select the desired item from the drop-down list and click OK. If you want to filter with two text criteria, check AND or radio button depending on whether both or either criterion should be true. Then select the comparison operator for the second criterion and enter a text value in the box right to it. For example, here we filtered the rows that contain either bananas or lemons. One thing that can make filtering more precise is using wildcards. Wildcards are special characters that can take any place of any character, and they are extremely helpful when you need to find results that are less than exact. There are three wildcard characters in Excel. The first one is asterisk, that represents any number of characters. For example, EX asterisk could mean Excel, Excel's example, expert, and so on. The second one is question mark that represents one single character. For example, TR question mark MP could mean Trump or Tramp. And the third one is tilde that is used to identify a wildcard character as is and not as a wildcard. For example, let's say you want to find the exact phrase Excel star in a list. If you use Excel asterisk, the search string would give you any word that has Excel at the beginning followed by any number of characters such as Excel, Excels, or excellent. To specifically look for Excel asterisk, you need to use tilde so that our search string just returns Excel asterisk. Please remember that in addition to the usage of wildcard characters in filtering, they can be used in the functions as well. In this table, you can see some examples of using wildcards. As you can see from the first example, asterisk banana asterisk shows all the fields that contain banana word, but the beginning and the end characters and the number of them will not be considered. The second example, question mark banana, shows the fields that ends with banana and just have two characters at the beginning. As you can see in this example, there is a list of organization names and some of them contain the LLC abbreviation. We want to filter on all those names in the list that have LLC using the wildcards. So we type asterisk LLC into the text box of the filter to see the cells that contain LLC. The second type of filter is filter by number. Number filters allow you to manipulate numerical data in a variety of ways, including filter numbers equal or not equal to a certain number, greater than, less than, or between the specified numbers, and filter cells with numbers that are above or below average. For example, here we use between filter command to create a filter to display only orders between $250 and $300. By clicking between filter command, Excel opens custom autofilter dialog box. We enter 250 in the lower bound and 300 in the upper bound values. By default, Excel suggests using greater than or equal to and less than or equal to comparison operators. You can change them to greater than and less than if you don't want the boundary values to be included. Date filter is the third filter type. It provides the greatest variety of choices that let you filter records for a certain time period quickly and easily. By default, filter date groups all dates in a given column by a hierarchy of years, months, and days. You can expand or collapse different levels by clicking the plus or minus signs next to a given group. Also, date filters allow you to display or hide data for a particular day, week, month, quarter, year, before or after a specified date, or between two dates. In most cases, filter by date works in a single click. For instance, to filter rows containing data for the current week, you should point to date filters and click this week. But if you select the equals, before, after, between operators, the custom autofilter dialog box will show up, and you should specify the desired criteria. For example, to display all items for the first 10 days of April 2016, click between and type the date range. That is first day of April to the 10th of April. The fourth type of filter is filter by color. If the data in your worksheet is formatted by color or through conditional formatting, you can filter that data by color. Clicking the auto filter drop-down arrow will display filter by color with one or more options, depending on which formatting is applied to a column. You can filter by cell color, by font color, and by cell icon. For example, if you formatted cells in a column with 3 different background colors and you want to display only orange cells, you can use filter by color. One of the filtering options that can be used for text, numbers, and dates is filtering empty cell. If you need to only see the cells that have a value and are not empty, click the filter arrow, make sure the select all box is checked, and then clear blanks at the bottom of the list. This will display only those rows that have any value in a given column. The demo in the next slide shows you a summary of different types of filter. Please watch it.
In this example, I have an equipment checkout log, and there are a lot of things to keep track of, so I'd like to use some filters to simplify it. First, go to the Data tab and click the Filter command. And you'll see these drop-down arrows are now added to your header row. These are what you'll use to access all of the filtering options. Here, you'll see a list of all the different values that appear in this column. I'd like to just view the laptops and projectors, so I'll uncheck this box to quickly deselect everything, then check Laptop and Projector. Click OK, and now the drop-down arrow has been changed to a different icon to show that there is a filter applied to this column. We can narrow down this data even further by adding another filter to a different column. Let's filter by the date that the items were checked out. This shows all the months that appear in this column, so I'll uncheck the months that I don't want, then click OK. To get rid of any filter, just click the icon again and select Clear Filter. And I'm going to go ahead and clear this other filter that I applied earlier. So that's how you do simple filtering. Now let's take a look at some more advanced techniques. Using the same menu, you can also search for values that appear in this column. For example, a lot of our equipment is made by a company named Ceres. If we type that here, Excel will look for a match anywhere in this column and then list only those results below. To apply the filter, just click OK. For a little more control, you can use text filters instead. You'll access these from the same menu under Text Filters. Here you can filter information that fits more specific criteria. For example, cells that contain a certain number of characters or data that doesn't contain a word. In this example, we're going to choose does not contain and then enter laptop to exclude anything that contains this word, including laptops and laptop travel bags. Click OK, and Excel will refilter the data. Next, let's say that I only want to show items where the ID number is between 3000 and 6000. I can click the drop-down arrow and go to Number Filters. And there are a lot of different options here, but for what I need, I'm going to choose Between. Now I can type whatever values I want for these two fields. So this filter will show things that are greater than or equal to 3000 and less than or equal to 6000. Click OK, and now all of these values are between 3000 and 6000. Date filters are really cool because they can display data from a certain time period, such as last week, last year, between two dates, and so on. In this example, I'd like to find out which items were checked out between July 15th and August 15th. I'll select Between, and then in the dialog box that appears, I'll use this calendar icon to select July 15th and August 15th. Then click OK. And at this point, we have 3 different filters applied to our worksheet. So it's filtering out most of the items and just showing the ones that meet all of the criteria. If you'd like to remove the filters, you can clear them one by one like we showed you before. You can click the Clear command in the Sort and Filter group to clear all active filters, or you can turn off filtering altogether. Just click the Filter command to do this. As you can see, filtering can narrow things down really quickly, which will help you find the data you need. And because it includes so many different options, we bet you'll be able to use it with just about any spreadsheet.
Advanced filter is the last type of filter. Using this filter type, you can find rows that meet multiple criteria in multiple columns. In order to use advanced filter, first, your criteria need to be entered in a separate range on your worksheet. Also, the criteria range must have the same column headings as the columns that you want to filter. For example, here we defined a criteria to filter records for the North regions whose subtotal is greater than or equal to 900. In order to apply advanced filter, select any single cell within your dataset, go to the Data tab and click Advanced. In the Advanced Filter dialog window, you should specify action, list range, and criteria range. Action is used if you want to copy the filter results to another location. Selecting Filter the list in place will hide the rows that don't match your criteria. But if you choose Copy the results to another location, the filter results will be copied to the cell range that you specify in the Copy To box. List range specifies the range of cells to be filtered. Don't forget to include the column headings as well. Finally, the criteria range is the range of cells that you use to define your criteria. By clicking OK, your filtered rows will be displayed. One of the main usages of advanced filter is for defining criteria based on a formula. To create an advanced filter with more complex conditions, you can use one or more Excel functions in the criteria range. First of all, the formula that is used to define your criteria must evaluate to either true or false. Also, the criteria range should include a minimum of 2 cells, including a formula cell and a heading cell. The heading cell should be blank or has a heading different from any of the list range headings. For example, to filter rows where August sales that are in column D are greater than July sales that are in column C, type this criteria: equal D5 greater than C5. Another benefit of using advanced filter is working with AND/OR logic. Criteria listed on the same row work with the AND logic, and criteria entered on different rows work with the OR logic. As you can see in the first example, since both criteria are defined on the same row, just the records that have both of these two conditions will be shown. But in the second example, since the criteria are defined in two different rows, the records that have any of these two conditions will be shown. In this example, we used a combination of AND/OR logic in our criteria to display records for the North region with subtotal greater than or equal to 900 or average greater than or equal to 350. Watch the examples in the next two slides to learn more about advanced filter.
To create an advanced filter, however, you must first create a criteria range within the workbook into which you will enter the criteria to filter your table. A criteria range is a duplicate of the header row of your table that is physically separated from the rest of the table. It must contain a header row of fields identical to the header row of the table to filter. Below this header row, you then enter the criteria against which to filter the table. When creating a criteria range, it helps to note that it does not have to be on the same worksheet. You could have one worksheet with the table data and a separate worksheet that contains your criteria range or criteria ranges. You can create multiple criteria ranges if you like, but you can only apply one range at a time to the table. No matter where you decide to place the criteria range in your workbook, however, you must leave room between the criteria range and your table if they appear within the same worksheet. This is very important for the filter to work correctly. Also, the criteria range must be at least one column by 2 rows in length. This leaves at least one row available to enter the filtering criteria. Also, the field names listed in criteria rows must be spelled exactly as they appear in the table, but are not case sensitive. As long as you have created a criteria range that consists of one top row of criteria labels and at least one row beneath it where you can enter criteria conditions, then you can use the criteria range to create an advanced filter. Before applying the filter, you must enter the necessary criteria conditions under the corresponding fields within the criteria rows in the criteria range. After creating a criteria range and entering at least one criteria to use as a filter, you can then apply the filter. To apply the filter, select a cell in the table to which to apply the filter. Then click the Advanced button that appears in the Sort and Filter button group on the Data tab of the ribbon. Doing this then opens the Advanced Filter dialog box. At the top of the Advanced Filter dialog box, in the Action section, choose the Filter the List in Place option button. The List Range text box should show a reference to the table to filter. Then click into the Criteria Range field. Then click and drag over the entire criteria range, including the header row and any criteria rows you added to select it. Make sure your selection encompasses both the labels and the criteria in the criteria range. Then click the OK button to filter your table based on the criteria. To remove the filter after applying it, click into the filtered data within the table. Then click the Clear button in the Sort and Filter button group on the Data tab of the ribbon to remove all sorting and filtering from the table. Doing this then displays all the records in your table.
In this example, the data from 3 products, A, G, and H, need to be filtered. The aim is to only filter product A if the units for the product exceed 300. To specify these conditions, use the equals, more than, less than, greater or equal to, and less than or equal to signs. First, we need to add rows above the data table for the table headers, the same as in the table below. In our example, we need to add product and units. We also need to add rows above the data table for the criteria, each in a separate row. In our example, product A, product G, product H, more than 300, And also, we need to add one empty row between the table of criteria and the table of data. In our example, row 5. Select Advanced Filter from the Data tab. Then input the list range, which is our table of data, and the criteria range, which includes headers. The Advanced Filter offers two filtering options. Either the filtered data will be hidden, or the data meeting the conditions will be copied to another location. We'll keep the default choice. Rows that don't meet the conditions are hidden, and it isn't possible to unhide them. We only know that the advanced filter has been used because of the numbering of the rows not being continuous and the color of the row digits now being blue. To disable the advanced filter, select Clear. Another example of using the advanced filter is to filter out unique product names from our list. To do this, select Copy to another location, change the list range to include only the column with the product names, clear criteria range, and in the Copy To box, enter the address of the first cell that the list should start in. Finally, tick Unique Records Only and press OK. The result is a list where we can easily determine the number of product types, sum up the quantities of these products, or perform other operations.
After applying a filter to a column, you may want to clear it to make all information visible again, or filter your data in a different way. To clear a filter for a column, click the filter button in the column's header, and then click Clear Filter from the column name. If you want to remove all filters in a worksheet, there are two different ways. The first method is going to the Data tab and click Clear button. The second method is going to the Home tab, click Sort and Filter, and click Clear. As I said, table is an approach for organizing your data. A table is a group of related data organized in a series of rows and columns that is managed independently from any other data on your worksheet. Excel tables provide an array of features to effectively analyze and manage data such as calculated columns, total row, autofilters, sort options, and so on. In order to create a table in Excel, you should select the data range that you want to convert into a table first, or click on one of the cells and let Excel select the data range automatically for you. After selecting the data range, there are two ways that you can use for creating your table. The first method is going to the Insert tab and clicking the Table button. The second method is going to the Home tab and clicking Format as Table and select one of the templates. This method is better than the first method because you can select the desired theme as well. Whatever method you choose, Excel automatically selects the entire block of cells and shows Create Table dialog box. In this dialog box, you should verify if the selected range is correct. Also, if your table has header, check the box next to My Table Has Headers, then click OK. Your table will be created. At first sight, it may look like a normal range with the filter buttons in the header row, but there is much more to it. Excel tables offer a number of advantages over normal data ranges. One of them is filtering feature that is added automatically in the header row and enables you to use various text and number filter and sort options. If you don't need to filter or sort your data, you can easily hide the filter arrow by going to the Design tab and unchecking the filter button. In addition to the normal filtering arrows, you can use a slicer as well. Slicer is a graphical filter for tables and pivot tables and makes filtering data faster and easier. To add a slicer to your table, go to the Design tab and click the Insert Slicer button. And in the Insert Slicers dialog box, check the boxes for the columns that you want to create a slicers for and click OK. A newly created table is already formatted with banded rows, borders, shading, and so on. If you don't like the default table format, you can change it using the predefined styles in the Table Styles gallery that is in the Design tab. Tables styles control the fill color and border lines of the header, rows, and columns. After a table style has been selected, you can control the style formats by selecting checkboxes in the Table Styles group. These options lets you hide and show the table elements such as header row, total row, banded rows, banded columns, first column, last column, and filter button. One of the table features is total row. This feature can quickly total the data in your table using one of the several functions that are provided in a drop-down list for each table column. To add a total row to your table, click any cell within the table, go to the Design tab and select the Total Row box. The totals row will be displayed at the end of the table, and you just need to use the drop-down menu and select the desired function for each column. When you need to insert a new row or a column inside the table, use the Insert options on the Home tab, or right-click the cell above which you want to insert a row and click Insert and click Table Rows above. In order to insert a new column, click Table Columns to the left. To delete rows or columns, right-click any cell in the row or column you want to remove, select Delete, and then choose either Table Rows or Table Columns. You can also click the arrow next to the Delete on the Home tab and select the required options. If you want to delete duplicate rows in your table, go to the Design tab and click Remove Duplicates. In the Remove Duplicates dialog box, select the columns that may contain duplicates and click OK. We will talk about remove duplicates in detail in the next topics. One of the benefits of using table is writing formulas using the column names. For example, here we used average function to calculate the average of each row using the name of the columns that are January, February, and March. As you can see in the function, instead of typing B2 to D2, we type January to March in addition to the table name, which is sales table. Please consider that when you want to use the column names instead of the name of the cells, you should type the table name as well as the column names and type @ before the column name. When you create a table in Excel, it's given a default name such as table 1 or table 2. But if you want to use your table name in a formula, it's better to rename it to a meaningful name. To do this, go to the Design tab and type a new name in the table name box. When you want to remove a table without losing the table data or table formatting, go to the Design tab and click Convert to Range. Or right-click anywhere within the table, select Table, and click Convert to Range. This will delete a table without losing its data and format. The demo in the next slide will review all the table features.
To create a table, all you have to do is select the cells you want to include. Then click the Format as Table command on the Home tab. Here you'll find several different styles to choose from. Just pick whichever one appeals to you the most. You can always choose a different table style later. If you want your table to have special formatting in the header row, make sure you leave this box checked. You can also change the selection if you need to. When you're ready, click OK, and now we have a table. Notice that every table includes filtering by default, which will let you sort your data or narrow it down depending on what you need. You can apply filtering anytime using the drop-down arrows here. If you need to fit more content into your table, not to worry. Excel gives you 2 ways to add more columns or rows in the same style as the rest of the table. Just enter your data in any adjacent column or row, and it'll be roped into the table automatically. You can also click, hold, and drag the bottom right corner to create any size table you need. This is looking pretty good. I think I'm ready to try some different formatting options now. For that, you'll find everything you need on the Design tab, which appears anytime you have your table selected. Remember how I said you could change your table style once you added one to your worksheet? You can do that here using the options in the Table Styles group. And this time you get a preview. This is one of the benefits of using tables in Excel. They make it easy to change the look and feel of your worksheet, and it's a lot faster than formatting the cells yourself. Why don't we go with this one? Next to the table styles, Excel gives you a few more options for customizing your table. For example, you could add special formatting to the last column to make it stand out, or you could add a total row. These will all look slightly different depending on the table style you've chosen, so you might need to experiment to get the look you want. If you change your mind, you can always remove the table from your workbook without losing any of your data. Just be aware that this can cause issues with cell formatting, so it should only be done if you truly intend to start over. All you have to do is make sure your table is selected, then click Convert to Range on the Design tab. Next, click Yes to confirm, and the range will no longer be a table. The Design tab has disappeared, but you can still adjust the formatting manually using the options on the Home tab. You can even use the Clear command to restart your formatting from scratch. Now you know how to add and remove tables in Excel.
Find and Duplicates is a useful feature in Excel that helps you to delete duplicate values in your worksheet. To begin with, select the range in which you want to delete duplicates, then go to the Data tab and click the Remove Duplicates button. The Remove Duplicates dialog box will open. You just need to select the columns to check for duplicates and click OK. To delete duplicate rows that have completely equal values in all columns, leave the check marks next to all columns. But to remove partial duplicates based on one or more columns, select only those relevant columns. Watch the demo in the next slide.
Duplicate value is one, where all values of that particular row are an exact match of all the values in some another row. Do remember that duplicate values are determined by the value displayed in the cells, not by the values stored in the cell. For instance, if you take a look at both these cells, you will find that the values in both cells are similar, but date format for both are unique. Be sure about the results before you remove the duplicate values, or you can run filter or conditional formatting before removing the duplicate values. It is a good idea to copy your data to another sheet before removing duplicate values, so if something goes wrong, then you may still have a chance to revert back. To remove duplicate values, select the range of cells. On the Data tab, click Remove Duplicates under Data Tools group. You will be asked to select the columns that contain duplicate values. You must select the columns carefully, as Excel is asking you to which rows it should consider as duplicate. For instance, if I only select order date, region, and salesperson, and uncheck all the other columns, then all the rows whom has similar values in these three columns alone will be removed, even though if the items, unit, cost and total were different. As I mentioned earlier, mostly we consider those rows as duplicate, which are an exact copy of values from other row, including all the headings. You can easily uncheck all headings by clicking Unselect All button, or can check every item by clicking Select All. My data has header as checked by default, and Excel assumed that the first row in the selected cell range have headings, which it is displaying in the columns list. If you uncheck this option, then heading from columns will vanish, and Excel will start displaying the columns by their actual headings, and will consider first row as data values. Clicking OK will instantly find and remove the duplicate values from the selected range, and will display a message that how many duplicate values were removed, and how many unique values remain. If there were no duplicate values, then Excel will display a corresponding message. Press OK to complete the task.
Data validation is a feature in Excel used to control what a user can enter into a cell. You create a validation rule to control the number of characters and type of data that can be entered into a certain cell. For example, you could use data validation to make sure a value is a number between 1 and 6, or make sure a text entry is less than 25 characters. Data validation can simply display a message to the users and tell them what is allowed and what is not allowed. In order to apply data validation, select one or more cells to validate, go to the Data tab and click the Data Validation button. Then Data Validation dialog box will appear. In the Settings tab, define the validation criteria according to your needs. With the use of Allow drop-down menu, choose the restriction type that you need to apply, and in the Data part, choose the condition type. As an example, here we defined a role that restricts users to entering only numbers between 1000 and 9999. If you want to display a message that explains to the user what data is allowed in a given cell, open the Input Message tab and make sure Show Input Message box is checked. Then enter the title and text of your message and click OK. After applying a validation role, when users select a validated cell, the message that you type will show up and doesn't let them to type a value against your defined condition. In addition to the input message, you can show an error alert when invalid data is entered in a cell. To configure a custom error message, go to the Error Alert tab and check the Show Error Alert box. Then in the Style box, select the desired alert type and enter the title and the text of the error message into the corresponding boxes and click OK. There are 3 types of message boxes, including Stop, Warning, and Information that you can choose as the error alert. Stop is used to prevent users from entering invalid data in a cell, and users can retry but must enter a value that passes data validation. The warning does nothing to stop invalid data, and it has 3 options. The Yes option accepts invalid data, the No option is used to edit data, and Cancel removes the invalid data. And finally, Information just informs users that the entered data is invalid. Another usage of data validation is for creating option lists for a cell. Creating an option list is a great way to ensure that entries are uniform and free from spelling errors. It also helps restrict entries so that only values you've approved are entered into the sheet. To add a drop-down list of items to a cell or a group of cells, select the target cells and open the Data Validation dialog box. On the Settings tab, select List in the Allow, and in the source box, type the options that you want to provide to the users and separate them by comma. For example, to limit users' input to 3 choices, type Yes, No, and Not Applicable and click OK. As you can see here, we have a drop-down list in cell B2 with Yes, No, and NA options. Supplying a list directly in the source box is the fastest way that works well for a small option list. But if you want to create a list with lots of items, it's easier to create a data validation list from a range of cells. To do this, instead of typing values into the source field, select the icon to the right of the source box, then select the values that you want to appear in your option list and click OK. For example, here we use the values of the cells from A65 to A70. Watch data validation demo in the next slide.
I'm going to show you how we can use data validation to restrict the information entered into cells so it meets our criteria. Now, it's completely optional, and in some workbooks you may never use it, and in some you might need to use it. So let me give you an example. I've loaded up our sample sales information workbook, and you can see in employee ID column we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. So we've got whole numbers, and here we want to ensure that the next employee ID that is entered is a number and it's not a text or something else. So we go to our data tab and we can go to data validation, and we'll click data validation, and we get the data validation dialog box, and here we've got 3 tabs. So the first one is about allowing us to decide what we want to go into the cell. The second one is about giving a message before we enter anything into a cell. And the third one is defining an error alert if incorrect information is entered into a cell. So what we're going to do under the validation criteria, at the moment it's set to allow any value, but we're going to change it to allow only whole numbers. Now it's asking us what that whole number should be between. We can actually change this to say that we just want it to be greater than 0, and then we're just going to click OK. And now if we try to put in, say for example 10 in letters, we're going to get an error message that says that the value doesn't match the criteria that we defined, and we get to retry it. So we'll click retry and we'll put in 10, and you can see it works just fine. Now it's not just limited to whole numbers, we can actually change it to include a formula instead. So what I'm going to do is I'll go back to data validation, and instead of allow whole number, I'm going to select custom, and under formula I'm going to say equals, and I'm going to select cell A14, and now I'm going to say it's greater than, and select cell A13. So that the next cell has to always be a higher number than the one that preceded it. And then I'm just going to click OK, just like that. So for 10 it will be fine, but what if I put in 8? Again, we'll get an error message. So let me just retry and put in 11, and we're fine again. Now we can change the error message that displays, so we can go to data validation and go to error alert, and we can decide the icon that we want. So we can put in information, and you'll see an eye or warning, and you'll see the sort of a hazard and exclamation mark, or stop. So I'll go with stop, and I'll say incorrect input, and then just an error message: the value that you have entered is incorrect, please try again. Just like that, and we can just click OK. Again, I'll try putting in 8, and you can see that we've got our incorrect input title, the stop symbol, and our message. We can just hit retry, and we'll just go with 10. Now another method is to ensure that we actually give an option for what people can put into that cell based on a drop down list. So for example, in this manager column, we may want it to have a drop down list so that people can choose the manager rather than type it in. And that saves time, and it also ensures that the information that is entered is exactly what we want. So to do that, what we need is actually a list that we're going to be using in a drop down list. So I'm just going to copy this column, and I'm just going to paste it over here. And I only want one of each manager, so I'm just going to delete these ones because we only have 2 managers. Just like that. And what I'm going to do is I'll click on this cell, and I will go to data validation, settings, and instead of allow any value, I'm going to choose list. And then I have a source that I can choose. I'm just going to select that range as the source, and I'm just going to click OK. You can notice instantly a drop down appears. If I click on that, we've now got John Smith and Sheila Gardner, so I'll just select Sheila Gardner. If I want to apply this list to the existing cells, I can just right click, copy, highlight those cells, right click, paste special, and choose validation. Just like that, and now they all have that drop down list. And it's important to remember that when you do this, you can't delete that list on the right hand side, otherwise it will affect the drop down list.
When you need to summarize and report results from separate worksheets, you can consolidate data from each sheet into a master worksheet. By consolidating data, you assemble data so that you can more easily update and aggregate as necessary. The worksheets that you want to consolidate can be in the same workbook or in different workbooks. Let's explain consolidate data with the use of an example. Supposing you have a number of reports from your company regional offices, and you want to consolidate those figures into a master worksheet so that you have one summary report with sales totals of all the products. As you can see in this picture, the 3 worksheets to be consolidated have a similar data structure, but different number of rows and columns. In order to use consolidate feature, first click the cell where you want the consolidated data to appear, then go to the data tab and click consolidate. Then in the consolidate window, select one of the summary functions you want to use to consolidate your data from the function box. There are different functions such as sum, count, or average. In this example, we use sum. In the reference box, click the collapse icon and select the range on the first worksheet. Then click the add button to insert that range and repeat this step for all the ranges you want to consolidate. Tick the top row and left column boxes if you want the row and column labels of the source ranges to be copied to the consolidation. And finally, select the create links to source data if you want the consolidated data to be updated automatically whenever the source data changes. As you see, consolidate feature created a worksheet for us, which is a combination of all the data of the 3 regional offices. It grouped all data based on the product names. For example, if you expand suites, you can see suite sale for different months and the total sale for each month. The demo in the next slide provides another good example of how you can use consolidate feature.
I live on a farm and we have a number of horses. So let's say we have 4 horses, and for each horse we have, for each quarter we have feed expense, we have the vet or health expenses, and the farrier expense, which is like getting their feet done. And so we want to total up for everybody how much the total of all the 4 horses are costing us. So now these are all a little bit different because some get more work than others and so on. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our first sheet, and we're going to have our cursor in A1. We're going to go to the Data tab, and we're going to hit the Consolidate here on your Data Tools. Okay, and so right now it says sum, and that's what we want, but you have other options down the list of what if you want to count or average or whatever. But we'll go with sum. And now what we're going to do, is we're going to click this little red arrow, but you could also consolidate other files into one file. But what we're going to do is just consolidate sheets into one file, or sheets into one sheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click my little red arrow here on the reference, and I'm going to go to horse 1, and I'm going to select from A1 to E4 here for all of the expenses for this horse. And I'm going to go back to my little red arrow, and I'm going to click Add. And then I'm going to click do this all over again for the next 3 horses. Now, once we have all our 4 horses added here, what you need to do is you may need to, our headings, we have headings on the top row and we have headings in the left column. So we're going to select the top row and left columns. And this is a pretty big important step. If you create a link to the source data, your data will have links, and it's much better this way. So let's go OK and click on OK. So there you have. Now if you wanted to do totals here, you could do totals across the bottom. And there you go. And the other feature that you have here, so you can break it down too. You can click on, you can see what all the farrier fees have been. You can see what the feed fees have been. You can see all of your different your features from all of your different books. So that's how you use the consolidate function.
Excel provides a feature called text to column that allows you to split the content of a cell into the different cells. For example, you can separate first names and last names that are typed in one cell into 2 different cells. In order to use Convert Text to Columns feature, select a range that you want to split its content, go to the Data tab, and then click Convert Text to Columns. Then Convert Text to Columns dialog window will appear and provides 2 options. If you want to split the cell content based on the characters such as comma, space, or tab, select the delimited option, but when you want to split the cell content based on a specific number of characters, use fixed width. In this example, we want to separate first names and last names. Since the number of characters of the first names and last names are not equal in different cells, we can't use the fixed width method. But the delimited method works very well as the first names and the last names are separated by a space. In the next step, you should uncheck Tab and select a space as the delimiter and click Next. In this step, you should select the destination cell. If you don't select a destination cell, it would override your existing data with a first name in the first column and last name in the next column. If you want to keep the original data intact, you should choose a different destination cell. By clicking Finish, first names and last names will be separated and shown in 2 different columns. In this example, we want to split our data with the use of fixed width method. As you can see, the content of all the cells has 2 parts, a 2-digit number and a word. Since we want to separate numbers from the rest of the text and the number has 2 digits, we can simply use fixWidth method. Similar to the previous example, we should select the data range and open text to columns window. But this time we click fixWidth option and click next. Excel automatically adds dividers based on the words or numbers with equal number of characters. You can adjust it if it is necessary. Then click next. As you can see in this window, we have the same options as the delimiter method. You should select the destination cell to insert the separated data and click finish. As it can be seen here, the numbers are separated from the rest of content. Watch the demo in the next slide to see another example of convert text to columns feature.
In this example, I have email addresses. So say I want to divide this up by username and domain. So what I will do, I always like to make a copy of the text I'm working with, just in case I mess something up. That way I don't mess with my original data. And this is just random email addresses from a list online. So what I'll do is I will select the column that I want to separate the text in. I'll go up to Data, and then I'll select the Text to Columns tool. So this gives you a couple options. So if it's similarly formatted text, you can use fixed width. That way you can set where you want to divide the text. But since we have a common divider of all of these, it's that @ symbol, we're going to select delimited. So I'll select that and click on next. So by default it selects tab, but I'm going to uncheck that and use other, and I've typed in the @ symbol here. So as you can see in this preview, it divides the username with the domain name, and it drops out the @ symbol because that's what the divider is. You can scroll down, make sure everything looks right. Now see, in cases like this, you might want to be cautious depending on what delimiter you use. For example, if you use the period, you can see in this example they've got 3 in this domain, so that may not be a good option for this. That's why the @ symbol, all of these are going to have just one @ symbol in them. So now that we've selected our delimiter, we're going to click on next. And then this gives you the option of selecting what format you want the data in. You might want to have it in just text. For example, if you are dividing zip codes, some zip codes start with a 0, so what Excel will do is drop off that 0 in the front, and it will just be a 4-digit zip code, and that could screw up mailings if you're doing that. So for that example, you might want to set it as text, or if you wanted to set it as a date, whatever you want to do. There's several options here. In this situation, I'm just going to leave it at general. And then also, if you weren't positive on that, you can select different settings for the different columns. Whichever matches whatever column, you can do that. Or if you want to, maybe I just want the domain numbers, domain names. Maybe I don't care about the usernames. If I don't want to have this information included in the results, I can just click on this and it's going to just skip this. It's not even going to show this when it splits it up. But again, I'm going to leave it at general. So once I've got everything looking how I want it to look, I will click on finish, and there it is. So I have the username and then I have the domain here. So I'm going to show you one other example real quick. So in this example, I have cities and states. This is something you might do if you're building up a mailing list. A lot of times the address might be in one cell, and you really want to split it into 2. So you want city and state. So again, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it there so I don't mess it up. I'm going to highlight this column. I'm already on the data tab, so I'm going to click on text to columns. So again, I want to use delimited because there's no straight line here for if I use fixed width. So if the first word was city for all of these, then I could use fixed width. But since it's not, I'm going to use delimited again. And again, I've got that delimiter there, that semicolon. So I'm going to let's see. Yep, uncheck that. I'm going to check on semicolon. And as you can see down here in the preview, it looks like it's divided everything up as expected. Again, you might consider using a space as your delimiter, but keep in mind that some of these have two words, so there's a space in there, so that could skew your results. So semicolon is perfect. We're going to go on to next. Yes, I want to import both columns because I want them split up, and I'm going to click on finish, and there we go. So now I have my cities and I have my states.
In your Excel worksheets, you can use hyperlink feature to link a cell value to another cell, worksheet, or workbook. You can also use hyperlink feature to open a new Excel file or create an email message by clicking a cell value. There are two ways for opening hyperlink dialog box. The first method is selecting the desired cell that you want to create a hyperlink for and clicking the link button from the Insert tab. The second method is right-clicking on the desired cell and clicking Hyperlink. Whatever method you use, the Insert Hyperlink dialog will open. To insert a hyperlink to another document such as a different Excel file, Word document, or PowerPoint presentation, you should click the existing file or web page section, select the location of the target file, and select the file. In the text to display box, type the text you want to appear in the cell. Also, if you want to display a text when users hover mouse over the hyperlink, click the screen tip and enter the text. If you use existing file section to link an Excel file to one of the cells of your current worksheet, in order to link it to a specific sheet or cell in the linked Excel file, click the bookmark button and select the sheet and type the target cell address in the Type in the Cell reference box. For creating a hyperlink to a web page under existing file or web page section, simply type a web address in the address bar instead of clicking on a file in the current folder category. In order to create a hyperlink to a specific sheet in your current workbook, click Place in this document section, and under Select a place in this document, select the target worksheet. Also, if you need to link to a specific cell, type the cell reference in the Type in the Cell reference box. If you want to create a new file by clicking on a cell, you can use Create New Document section. After going to the Create New Document section, in the name of the new document box, enter the new workbook name. Under Full Path, set the location where the newly created file will be saved, and select the desired editing option under When to Edit and click OK. The last hyperlink feature is creating a link to send an email. To have it done, click email address icon, then in the email address box, type the email address of your recipients. Optionally, you can enter the message subject in the subject box. This will open a new email message in Microsoft Outlook with the recipient email addresses and the title that you typed. As the last topic of this lecture, we will talk about how you can print your worksheet. In order to print your worksheet, you should first adjust it using Page Layout tab. There are two main groups in this tab. The first one is Page Setup group that contains options to set the margin, select orientation, specify page size, select the print area, and choose a background for your worksheet. The second one is a Scale to Fit group that contains options for adjusting the scaling of the spreadsheet on the printed page. For example, with the use of a Scale to Fit group, you can set the whole worksheet to be printed on just one page. If you want to apply several page setup options at once or access options that are not found on the Layout tab, click Page Setup dialog box launcher. By clicking Page Setup dialog box launcher, A dialog box with 4 tabs will open. These tabs can be used for adjusting the page size, margin, adding header and footer, and adjusting print area. By opening the Page tab, you can select the orientation of the page, fit the worksheet content into a specific number of pages, and select the paper size that you want to use to print your worksheet. By opening the Margin tab, you can adjust top, bottom, left, right, header, and footer margins. If you go to Header and Footer tab, you can type a text to be shown as header at the top and as footer in the bottom of all the printed pages. Finally, Sheet tab can be used to change the worksheet area that you want to print. Also, it can help to select a row and a column that should be represented in all the pages as table header. When printing large worksheets, it's helpful if every page contains column and row labels. The last option in this tab is Print Order, that shows the sequence in which the pages are printed. The default order is to print top left section first, then bottom left section, then top right section, and at the end, bottom right section. When you want to print a large worksheet that contains a great number of rows and columns, you can use a feature called Page Break to define the number of rows and columns that you want to print in each page. By default, Excel divides the worksheet into equal sections, but if you want to define your own page breaks and change the default section sizes, you can use manual page breaks. In order to see the page breaks, you should change your view to Page Break Preview from the View tab. In order to add a page break, click the row that you would like to appear at the top of the page, then click Breaks in the Page Layout tab and select Insert Page Break. You can also insert vertical page breaks by selecting the column to the right of where you would like the break and repeat the same process. As you can see here, there are 2 types of lines when you use page break. The dashed line indicates an automatic page break, and the solid line indicates a manual one. If you just want to print a part of the rows and columns, you can use Print Area. This feature enables you to select a range of cells that will print. For using this feature, you should select a range of cells, then go to the Page Layout tab and click Print Area, then click Set Print Area. Watch the demo in the next slide to know more about how you can adjust your worksheet and make it ready to be printed.
Workbooks are designed to be viewed electronically. It can be hard to tell what your data might look like outside of Excel, for example, if you plan to print it or save it as a PDF. Luckily, there are several different ways to view and customize your layout. To get started, I recommend switching to Page Layout View using the command in the bottom right corner. This will help you visualize the final product as you make changes to your workbook. Next, go to the Page Layout tab on the ribbon. Here you'll find everything you need to modify your page orientation, margins, print titles, and more. For example, our current orientation is portrait or vertical, a good choice if your goal is to fit more rows on each page. I'd like to switch to landscape or horizontal so I can fit more columns instead. Just click the orientation command, then choose landscape, and you'll instantly see the change. There's still one column that's getting cut off on the right, but that's okay. If we adjust the margins, we should be able to fit all the columns on a single page. All you have to do is click the Margins command. Here you can choose one of the predefined sizes, or you can customize your margins depending on what you need. Just go back to the Margins command, but this time click Custom Margins. I'm going to make the left and right margins just a little bit wider at 0.5 inches instead of 0.25. When you're done, click OK, and your worksheet will be updated. You can also add headers and footers to your workbook to make the printed copy easier to read. In this example, we'll add a header by clicking the area here. This opens the Design tab for working with headers and footers. From here, you can easily add page numbers, today's date, and other information to your header or footer. All you have to do is click the command you want. How about page numbers? When you're done, click anywhere else in your worksheet to exit. Now the pages are numbered Page 1 and Page 2. Here's a tip: if your worksheet uses title headings, you can include them on each page to make the printed copy easier to read. For example, in this workbook, it would really help me to know what months these sales figures are for. Just go back to your title headings, then click the Print Titles command. Next, click the button next to the field you want to repeat. You can choose either rows or columns. The dialog box will collapse and your cursor will turn into a selection arrow. From here, select the data you want to repeat on each page. Then click the button again to go back to the dialog box. When you're done, click OK. Now my header row appears at the top of page 1 and page 2. There's one more thing I'd like to change about my layout. Notice how the data is split up so page 2 only contains about 9 or 10 rows? I'd like more control over that. Instead of the last couple of rows, I want the data to be divided evenly, 20 people on each page. To do this, I'm going to switch to the page break preview using the command in the bottom right corner. This makes it easy to review your page breaks so you can easily insert your own. Simply select the row below where you want the page break to appear. Then click the Breaks command and choose Insert Page Break. If we switch back to Page Layout view and zoom out just a little, we can see that the data is divided evenly between page 1 and page 2. Now you have all the tools you need to customize your page layout and prepare your workbook for printing or exporting.
That's it for today's lecture. Hope you could learn this lecture contents, especially sorting and filtering. In the next lecture, we will talk about subtotal and pivot table features that are used to summarize data. And like always, don't forget to ask your questions on the course forum. See you guys, bye!